seal that is being used as a replacement for animal therapy in nursing homes, which is really kind of awesome.
So she builds planets on Earth, you guys.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our night of mindfulness meditation. I'm James Monroe. I'm the producer of adult programs at the Museum of Science Boston, and I am so excited to kick this special event off and to welcome our friend Maïté, the founder of the Institute for Integrative Mindfulness and Movement, back here at the museum. We collaborated with her twice over the summer on 2 digital events, and we're thrilled to have her here tonight safely in studio, and we're going to elevate these experiences to new immersive levels. We're so excited. Maïté is going to take us on a deep dive into the science behind mindfulness and then take us on a guided meditation inspired by water. So tonight is a part of our current winter-spring virtual season of adult programming as well. We're about halfway through our lineup. We still have some great programming to come. I encourage you to take a look at our website, mos.org/adults. You can check out everything we have coming up every week. Now through the end of May, we're here with a different free virtual event. So sign up on that website and spend your spring here with us. A little bit later on in the program, Maïté is going to take some of your questions. So you can submit questions at any time by going to slido.com and entering the code mindfulness meditation, all one word. Once again, that's Slido, SLIDO.com with the code mindfulness meditation. And I need to thank our friends from the Lowell Institute for making tonight possible. Without them, we would not be here. This event wouldn't be happening, and it wouldn't be free for all of you. So please join me in giving a huge virtual round of applause and thanks to the Lowell Institute. And finally, I ask all of you to consider going to donate.mos.org/MOS at home and consider making a gift to allow us to keep bringing free virtual STEM-related programming just like tonight into all of your homes. Once again, that's donate.mos.org/MOS at home. But now I'm thrilled to turn it over to our host tonight. Please welcome to the stream, Maïté.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a night of mindfulness meditation on the theme of water at the Museum of Science. My name is Maïté, and I am the founder of the Institute for Integrative Mindfulness and Movement. My intention for tonight's evening is to start off by getting our feet wet with a mindfulness meditation practice on the ever-changing element of water. Then we'll take a plunge into the science of mindfulness to better understand what happens within our brain when we are meditating. After that, we'll float from cognitive learning into experiential learning with a second meditation practice to take a deeper dive into the element of water around mindfulness. And then lastly, we'll open up with a round of sharing and Q&A so you can tell us all about your experience tonight. So as we are breaking the ice together tonight, I would like to invite you to silence on your cell phones, turn off any notification that you may have, close any windows on your computer, and refrain from multitasking so we can fully immerse ourselves into this experience together and offer the gift of presence to one another. So what is water? Water is a very interesting element, especially now with the equinox at our door. Winter is slowly disappearing, snowflakes slowly dissolving, and the ice slowly melting. And as spring is arriving, gently, beautifully in our life again, we can notice the water flowing again, the rivers going back to the oceans. Water is everywhere. Water is changing all of the time from being gas, liquid, solid. Water is within us and around us. It is this life force of energy of vitality that can always bring us strength and clarity, or peace and calm. We can always feel connected to the element of water in one form or of another, as we can always feel connected to mindful awareness. There is always a moment in our life when we can return into feeling connected to ourselves, to others, to life, and to the planet in general. And so, what is mindfulness? I like to use the definition from Diana Winston. Mindfulness simply means paying attention to our present moment experiences with openness, with curiosity, and with a willingness to be with what is. So yes, it is not to deny that the last year has been particularly challenging. It's been challenging socially, economically, politically, on the health front with the pandemic, and also environmentally with global warming. And of course, this affects water. But thanks to mindfulness, and as John Kabat-Zinn famously said, we cannot control the wave, but we can learn how to surf. This is where the mindfulness practice is helpful. We can learn no matter what the conditions are, whether the tides are low or high, the waves feel calm or strong, always come back and build the capacity to live within the continuous flow of our life experiences, so that perhaps we can live with greater stability, ease, strength, and connect to the joys of our life, no matter what happens. And so now let's get our feet wet and start with the first mindfulness meditation practice. This practice, as you can see on the screen, is guided with visual aids. And so let's take a moment to notice how water is changing, transforming from liquid into solid. We can notice when water is becoming ice, it's becoming strong, solid, stable, unified, clear. And so now let's take a moment to find a comfortable seat. Maybe we can take a moment to make ourselves at home in our body, taking a big stretch, raising our arm up, lifting our shoulder, taking an inhale. And an exhale, we can even gently roll our shoulder and our neck, bringing a little bit more spaciousness and ease within our body. And so for this practice, you can, from time to time, reconnect to the screen. And otherwise, I invite you to soften your gaze downwards, maybe even perhaps close your eyes, allowing yourself to feel comfortable here. And then bringing presence into the body, finding a comfortable seat. And if sitting is not an option for you, you always have the option to return to lying down. So inviting the spine to feel upright, but not too tight, not too rigid, sensing the energy of the spine from the pelvis, elongating itself toward the sky. Taking a few deep breaths, perhaps, to allow some softening, opening within the body, inviting the shoulder to drop down and away from the ears. Sensing the contact of the sitting bones with the cushion or the chair. The feet in contact with the floor. Taking a moment here to fully embody yourself into the present moment. And as we are dropping in, we can connect to the quality of water being solid like ice. Now sensing the body stable, solid, resting for a moment in stillness, in quietness. Maybe inviting a few deeper breaths if this might be helpful to feel yourself back at home within your body, present in the here and the now. Sensing the architecture of the body supporting you, the solidity of the head, the shoulders and the arms resting along the sides, the 3 dimensions of the torso, and maybe a sense of groundedness, of rootedness from your sitting bone, your feet contacting the support on which you are sitting. And now allowing yourself to simply being here, feeling held, cradled, supported by the earth underneath you. As if you were a drop of water resting in the heart of a flower. And as you are sensing the entirety of your body here, sensing the volume, the shape, the contours of the body, taking a moment to notice the life that is happening within you. And it is possible that you are noticing already the mind wandering, some residual of the days coming up to the surface. Some thoughts, maybe noticing the mind being particularly active, choppy, agitated, or on the contrary, more calm. Perhaps noticing some emotion, feeling moods that are emerging on the surface. Or some sensation. And so letting whatever is here being here as part of the experience. And as soon as we are noticing, getting distracted into a thought, not letting ourselves being caught up into that thought, just simply inviting our attention back into sensing the entirety of our body, stable, solid, still in this very moment. And you may be noticing that within the stillness, there is a dance of sensation with your body. Subtle movement happening inwardly. You may be able to notice sensations in the hands or the feet. Maybe tingling sensations, pulsing, pulling, or you may be noticing this ever flow of sensation in different parts of the body, vibrating, squeezing, numbing. And so taking a few moments here to connect with and sense the dance of sensations arising and dissolving within the body. Nowhere else to go, nowhere else to be, but just here. And this is possible that as you are sitting here, you are noticing again the mind wandering, drifting away. And this is not a problem. Noticing the wandering of the mind is a moment of awareness, of waking up. And in this moment, we have a choice to simply come back in full presence, sensing the field of sensations within the body. You may notice some sensations that are a little bit more challenging. Some feelings, some thoughts, and we may notice that in this moment, these more difficult experiences may actually not appear as solid, like ice, as we might first notice. We might slowly notice that there is some life in those sensations. Perhaps some movement, perhaps a change in intensity, a dissolving. And so simply noticing that without letting ourselves being caught up into thoughts, into wanting to change the experience, into trying to avoid or manipulate or fight against the moment. Allowing your awareness to include the entirety of what you are experiencing right here, right now. Maybe noticing even the waves of the breath, the inflow of the in-breath coming into the body, and the outflow of the out-breath gently traveling out of the body. Perhaps noticing the sensation of rising and falling into the chest, or expansion and contraction in the belly. Or even the subtle movement at the nostrils. So for a few moments, just holding within the field of your awareness the play of physical sensations within the body or through the breath. Following sensation by sensation, sensing breath by breath. And again, if we are noticing our ourselves being taken away by a flow of thoughts, not letting ourselves get caught up into the rain, but instead gently returning again the attention to the direct experience of sensing the body. When we are holding our experience within awareness, it is like sitting along the side of the river. The flow of the river always continues. The water is never letting itself caught up by a stone. It finds its way through it, around it, under or below it. And just like that, moment by moment, we can simply be with what is. Again and again, like the flow of the river continuing again and again its course. It is like writing on water. Each experience appearing and dissolving. And so slowly, gently, whenever you are ready, you can, if you wish, further extend the field of your awareness to now sense your body sitting here within the space, the room you are in, becoming aware just like the flow changes from liquid waves to evaporation and droplet, the presence of water within the space, the air around you. Perhaps noticing if the air along your skin has the qualities of the water. Qualities of coolness or freshness, warmth or dryness, moisture or humidity. Taking a moment to really sense the quality of the air brushing your skins, the invisible sensation of water being present, sensed, palpable through your senses. And then you can even further extend the field of your awareness by reopening your eyes if they were closed, or opening your eyesight wider into a panoramic view to fully notice the space right here around you, and maybe sensing the presence of water in one way or another, maybe by hearing the sound of the rain, noticing clouds through the window, or maybe simply seeing water in a vase or a glass of water in front of you. Water is everywhere. It is within us, and it is around us. And we can take a moment to remember and appreciate water for what it is. Moments where we felt connected to water. And water makes about 70% of planet Earth, but it also makes about 70% of our body. And so let's imagine for a moment that we have become a droplet of water, and we can travel anywhere, and we choose to travel within the brain to learn more about the science around mindfulness. The science of mindfulness is a fascinating field with ongoing findings thanks to neuroscientific research and, of course, medical imaging of our brain. And so our brain, through our adult life, through our experiences and also our perceptions of our experiences changes constantly. It can reshape itself, it can change structure, function. We call that neuroplasticity. Yes, the brain is able to increase or decrease in size to inhibit or activate certain function. And so if we were that little drop of water and we were traveling further inside the brain, we would discover that our brain is made of 100 billion of neurons. The neurons are specialized cells, and they communicate between one another by building bridges, if you like, wires. They are called the synapses. And each neuron has the capacity to build 1,000 of synapses. So within the brain, there is a network of maybe 100 trillion of synapses. And so all these neurons, when they communicate between one another, they emit brain waves. When we are instead of calm, of ease, maybe resting, sleeping, the brain emits slow waves. And when we are more active, alert, energetic, the frequency of the waves increases. And so you may have heard of the famous sentence from the psychologist Donald Hebb: neurons that fire together, wire together. So what does that mean? Well, we all have neural pathways in the brain, and so when some neural pathways are frequently used, they are learning to fire together. And so the less effort it takes them to get activated and so to wire together. When neural pathways are no longer used in our brain, they start shedding. We call that the synaptic pruning. And this is for a good cause. The brain is simply trying to optimize the function of the brain by favoring the activity of the stronger neural pathway. And so this can serve us well to sometimes respond. But some other time when we borrow too many neural pathways, that can be detrimental to our health. Maybe we spend too much time living under anxiety streets. And so thanks to mindfulness, when we wake up to noticing our conditioning, our habits, the one that serves us well and the one that perhaps don't serve us as well, we can choose consciously our action from a place of responsivity instead of reactivity. And so in that space of choosing, we can learn to encourage the brain to search for the supportive, the encouraging, the nourishing neural pathway within our brain, the more supportive themes, if you like. It is like watering the flowers in our life as opposed to the weeds. And so what happens in the brain when the mind is wandering and we are not very present, if you like, when we are mindless? Well, when the brain stops to focus on a certain task at hand, it switches on into the default mode network. As you can see now on the screen, the default mode network is fairly active. It involves many different regions in the brain, including the posterior cingulate cortex, or the medial prefrontal cortex, the precuneus, and some other regions. And so when the brain is stimulated into thoughts, it either revisits the past, going into self-narrative, evaluating maybe our performances, judging ourselves, comparing, evaluating ourselves, maybe ruminating over some events, getting caught into loops into the past. This default mode network has also the capacity to make us travel in the future, to plan, to evaluate different scenarios, and sometimes even to imagine and catastrophize over scenarios. So when that happens, it can cause a lot of stress. We get caught up into dramas and stories. And so when the brain is under stress, other areas are being affected. And you can see that there are three main areas, and this is a very simplified image because, of course, not only those areas in the brain are being affected, but also our bodies. And one of the areas that is mostly affected is the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is known for its ability to help us think logically, abstractly, process data, find solution. But when we are under stress and we are not able to unplug from that autopilot mode, we're getting caught up in a constant mind wandering. This is not very helpful because the prefrontal cortex just focuses on trying to respond and find a solution to what we perceive as a threat, the stress. And so when that happens, over time, it inhibits the other function of the prefrontal cortex, of logical thinking, of planning with a clear mind. It starts to get foggy. And over time, the prefrontal cortex shrinks in size. So then another part of the brain that is being activated under stress is the amygdala. So the prefrontal cortex, by the way, is behind the forehead here, and the amygdala, we have two of them in the brain. They have the shape of an almond, and they are basically located within the brain, right in between the base of the eyebrow and the top of the ear. And so when the amygdala is under stress, it simply activates itself to tell the brain that there is an imminent threat and that we need to find a solution. And so it is known that when people are under constant stress, the amygdala increases in size. But in long-term meditators, it's been shown that the amygdala actually decreases in size. So this is an example of the neuroplasticity where the structure of the brain is being affected, an increase or decrease in size depending on how we perceive a life event. And so another part of the brain that actually tends to hardwire itself with the amygdala, which is the most primitive part of the brain, is the hippocampus. Hippocampus coming from the word in Latin seahorse, because this has the shape of a seahorse. And the hippocampus is the site of memories, especially the site of spatial memories location. So for instance, several years ago, there was a study made in London on taxi drivers, and they have to remember, way before we had GPS, a lot of streets and where to access to those streets, and it was shown that they had a particularly highly developed hippocampus, the hippocampus that was bigger in size than the average population. And when we are under a lot of stress, actually the hippocampus decreases in size, shrink. In the hippocampus, there are a lot of receptors for the cortisol, the stress hormone, and so this inhibits the other function of the hippocampus. One of the other main functions of the hippocampus that recently neuroscientists have found is that the neurocampus is the site of neurogenesis in adult life. Neurogenesis is the production of neurons throughout life. So it means that those new neural pathways that are constantly being created are being stopped when we are under stress, which perhaps is one of the reasons why when we age, it is known that the brain shrinks. But again, with mindfulness meditation, the reverse effect on the hippocampus were being proven. So isn't that interesting? The default mode network has been serving us well on an evolutionary perspective, and also the primary brain, right? They have helped us survive, evaluate a threat, and respond to it, so we can continue to survive as a human species. But it has also been detrimental, because when we spend too much time under stress or caught up into past and future story, we are not really fully present. So what happens within the brain when we are meditating and we are realizing that we are wandering. We are turning on another network called the salience network that now you can notice with two main parts. One is the anterior insula, and the other one is the interior cingulate cortex. So the salience network is that moment of awakening. We are waking up, noticing, oh, I was caught up in a past story, or I was lost in the future, and I can wake up to being right here, right now. The salience network is believed to process immediate information from the present moment and to help us elect the stimuli in the present moment that makes the most sense for us, that really matters. So maybe here, instead of choosing continuing our wandering and getting lost, we can redirect our attention to being back together in this conversation. And so when that happens as we meditate, when we are noticing that we were wandering, the salience network turns on, and then there is a reorientation process that happens, which involves two other parts on the brains, made of the inferior parietal lobe, as you can see on the new slide, and the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And so this reorientation, this refresh moment, help us reorient our attention back onto the main focus of our awareness during the meditation. So for instance, it could be turning our attention back into our body sensations like we just practiced, or to sensing the flow of the breath, or the contact of our body on the chair. And we return to that again and again. And finally, when the meditator is able to maintain focused attention, stabilize the mind, mostly only the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is activated. Of course, there might be other regions, but you can see that it is a huge difference from being in the default mode network. In the moment of stabilizing the attention, of being fully present to life, moments by moment, we can notice that the brain can gain perhaps greater ease, clarity. There is a letting go of getting caught up into the thought, into the stories. And so this may be why mindfulness meditator reports feeling greater state of ease, of peace, of clarity, being able to access to the joy in their life more quickly, no matter what is happening. In this moment, it is almost like the glass of muddy water that we may feel we have in our brain, where we are restless, agitated, confronted to chaos, has suddenly become clear. We can see through the water. We can maybe notice the effect of light and shadow, of sunshine inside that glass. And so you can see that neuroplasticity is a very interesting field of research, especially when we notice and compare what is happening within the brain with meditation. And so this concludes our section on the science around mindfulness. The science around mindfulness is, to me, a very fascinating, interesting field, and this is only the tip of the iceberg. I am sure that there will be many more discoveries, maybe some that will complement what I'm sharing with you tonight, and others that may even challenge what I can share with you from my readings. And by the way, at the end of the evening, I will share a slide on which you can refer about all the scientific research that inspired me for this evening. And so knowing our brain and how it functions is one thing, but through our direct experience, through the practice of mindfulness, this is how we can more intimately know about ourselves and how our minds have a life of its own. So on that note, I would like to invite you for a deeper dive with a second mindfulness meditation practice. Take a moment now to make yourself comfortable and at ease with your body, maybe readjusting your posture, maybe taking a stretch if you need, or a few deep breaths. And so, as we are dropping into this second practice, you can see that it is a visual meditation practice. And there are many types of mindfulness practice. And so we'll start and begin by sitting right here with a focused awareness practice. And now I invite you to pick one snowflake that you are watching on the screen, offering your full attention to only see this snowflake, noticing the shape of the snowflake, the way it's moving into space, its color, and then when you can no longer see that snowflake, just directing your gaze to picking another snowflake, offering your whole attention to only seeing this snowflake, as if it was the very first time in your life that you were noticing a snowflake. Aware of the details, the dance, the different points. And it is very possible, as you are following this snowflake, that you are noticing your mind being distracted, wandering. And this is not a problem. We have a choice now. We know that we are aware and we can return our attention back to the snowflake. You may be also feeling distracted by the other snowflakes on the screen and the background. So this is not a problem. Just for a few moments, let's practice in silence by just picking one snowflake and really looking at it, noticing all of its quality. And again, if you're noticing yourself wandering, not a problem. So I'll give you a few moments in silence to play and experiment with that. Noticing if it's moving fast or slow. Noticing maybe the space in between the different branches of the snowflake. The different colors of blues. And this might be easy or not so easy to focus on just one snowflake. And so this is not a problem. This is just a practice. Learning, trying. And then if you like, you can expand now slowly the field of your awareness to a more open awareness, now encompassing within your eyesight the entirety of the screen, including perhaps the effect of the snow falling, hearing it, taking in the background, noticing the depths within the screen, and taking in all the different snowflakes, not favoring one, but allowing your awareness to feel vast, spacious, broad. Holding within the field of your awareness the entirety of the experience. And you can even, if you like, expand the awareness even more into sensing your body sitting here, watching, Noticing not only the screen, but also the room around you, the space. Feeling any body sensation, play of feeling and mood. Noticing thoughts passing by. Allowing your open awareness to be receptive to this entire experience. Allowing each experience to float by in the sky like clouds. Resting here for a few moments in the sea of your own awareness. Maybe noticing yourself being aware of watching, aware of your awareness. And so now, slowly, gently, if you like, I invite you to lower your gaze away from the screen, maybe downward on a spot that is not distracting you, or to even close your eyes. For a few moments of silence to continue holding the entirety of your experience, moments by moments. Sound by sound, breath by breath, sensation by sensation. Thought or emotion, letting the field of your awareness to be vast, spacious, generous and present with what is. And if we are noticing the drifting, not a problem. Gently returning, holding it all in the field of your awareness, or returning back into focusing to a more direct point of awareness, like the breath, like a body sensation. And now slowly we can turn toward our heart space for a loving kindness practice, listening to the feel of our hearts. And if you like, you can make with your hands the shape of a drop that you place over your heart center. And taking a moment to ask yourself, what is it that I most wish for in my life? Dreams, hopes, visions. And confiding, pouring into this drop of water that you are holding within your heart space, any of these wishes, dreams, hopes, desires, visions that you have and hold for yourself. And sometimes when we are practicing and cultivating the quality of the heart, it can feel dry and arid like a garden in the winter, and this is not a problem. We can allowing ourselves to let whatever is here be here without judgment, with kindness and care toward ourselves. And sometimes when we practice loving kindness, it can feel like a lush and vibrant garden in the spring. And so also fully holding, receiving whatever is here. This practice is only about watering the seeds of goodness, of kindness, of appreciation, compassion, understanding toward ourselves, toward others, towards life. Watering the garden of our hearts. And within that drops that we are holding within our hands, within our hearts, we can extend out to all living beings our wishes of goodness, including the plants, the animals, and the human beings, and the planet even. Offering to all living beings the seeds of love, of compassion, of care that are existing within ourselves. And just like water, being solid like ice, we can offer these wishes for all living beings. May we all live with greater strength and stability. And just like water, being flowing like the stream of a river, may we all cultivate fluidity and playfulness in our life. And just like water evaporating into invisible droplets of water, may we all feel greater freedom and spaciousness. And then gently, whenever you are ready, we can reopen our eyes and slowly send out this drop of water to be shared within the whole world, within the whole planet, with all the living beings here. And we can observe maybe that water drop flowing, radiating out all the goodness in all the universe. May the blue planet, our planet Earth, benefit from the goodness within that drop, so we can all access to clean and clear water, so we can all live our life in greater awareness and kindness toward one another. And so taking a few moments here to receive what you have sent out into the world, noticing what it's like to give generously wishes of goodness, unconditionally, boundlessly, And also for a moment allowing yourself to maybe receive in your heart all those droplets, all the wishes that we have shared and expressed together in this practice. And knowing that this is possible through collective awareness to awaken to a life of beauty, of ease, of peace, just like we see on the screen here. We can always be present to life as water is. May we all continue to live with this quality. So I would like to thank you all for trying out this practice with me, for taking a deep dive. On that note, I would be so grateful to hear about any questions that you have about your experience. Please let us know how it was like for you by going onto slido.com and enter the code mindfulness meditation. Yes, go to slido.com and enter mindfulness meditation. Ask any question that you have about any of the practices that we've shared together about the science of mindfulness. And also, not only question, feel free to share any aha moment, awakening, discoveries, learning, takeaways from this evening. I would be really grateful to hear anything that you would like to share. So I have a few questions already, and please keep asking your questions, sharing your comments, your experience. There are so many ways to experience mindfulness meditation, and so there is never a right or wrong way. It's always interesting to learn from one another. And so the first question I have is, are there any books or publication or resources that you would recommend to learn more about the neuroscience of mindfulness meditation? Yes, so thank you for this question. And of course, you will see in a moment, I will share with you a slide that refers to all the authors that I have been reading about for this evening. So I invite you to search them all. They are really wonderful. And also another person that comes to mind right now is a neuroscientist. His name is Rick Hanson. And he has a wonderful book. He's also a mindfulness practitioner, so you may enjoy reading his. And I see someone saying amazing experience. Thank you. Someone else, thank you. That was lovely. The definition of mindfulness. There are very many definitions of mindfulness. So I chose tonight to use the definition from Diana Winston. Mindful awareness means paying attention to our present moment experiences with openness, curiosity, and a willingness to be with what is. I also like to use the definition of John Kabat-Zinn. Mindfulness means paying attention on purpose to our present moment experiences with non-judgment, because when we are noticing, maybe wondering, instead of judging, scolding ourselves for it, can we bring kindness, right? And there are many more, because we have many different ways of experiencing mindfulness meditation. So I encourage you to search for more and find maybe the one that more resonates to you. Someone says, thank you so much for doing this. I am so appreciative and I really enjoy the snowflake meditation. Can you do visualization with any object? You mostly can, but of course some object may have more, maybe more easier to stabilize the mind, but you can certainly take a moment to pause during the day and maybe observe a plant, really watch a bird, and it's very interesting actually to do this with nature. So absolutely, I encourage you to do that. And someone asked me, do you have any advice for people to struggle with being present during meditation? Yes, well, it is a practice. So, of course, the mind will wander. We sometimes think that when we practice meditation, the mind should stop. This is not possible. Our mind can always be wandering. This is what minds like to do when they're by default, as I shared with you. So as soon as we are noticing the attention wandering, we just simply bring back. So it can be helpful to, like I suggested, focus the attention on a point of anchor, so the mind doesn't feel it's being tossed and turned. So the point of anchor can be your breath. If the breath is not accessible, it can be sensing your sitting bone on the floor. Sometimes sound can be very helpful. And for some people, focus object of awareness is very helpful. And for others, it's easier to focus on a more open awareness. So it kind of depends on your experience and what works best for you. So I encourage you to try and to be open. Someone asked, is it okay to move during meditation? My body starts to ache and I can't stay still. Yes, Monica. So, of course, we have different options when we are noticing restlessness. So, we are not trying to make ourselves so uncomfortable that this is a major distraction. We can being aware of that and adjust our posture as needed. Also, as I suggested during the meditation, we can approach that area a little bit of discomfort, and for a moment, if it's possible, bring curiosity and noticing what's happening and holding that within the whole field of our experience, noticing if maybe the discomfort is still there or it's moving or it's changing. That can be one solution. And there are also some people who like to practice walking meditation and more mindful movement meditation, so that's also another option. So I'll let you try with my different little tips and maybe a report sometime. You can write me an email. I will share my email in a moment. I love this experience. I have a tendency to fall asleep when I meditate. Does that mean I need more sleep, or am I doing it wrong? Thank you for this question. Well, guess what? A lot of us, we tend to not sleep enough and not get the amount that we should every day. So it is quite often normal to notice that sometimes when we take a moment to quiet ourselves and to be still, that we do fall asleep. So that is not a problem. The other also interesting element that we can bring into our meditation is that when we are becoming aware of sleepiness, we can notice, what it's like sleepiness. Can I pause for a moment and maybe notice, where do I feel sleepy? What is sleepy in my body? Noticing through physical sensation how sleepiness manifests, perhaps, and being curious, does that change or not? And we can also have the option to practice standing meditation if sitting makes us fall asleep, or lying down. Thank you. I feel so peaceful, and I learned that when you get distracted, you can imagine the sky and put the thought in the clouds to float away. Do you have any other example for us? I offer the image of the clouds floating away, not getting caught up. We can also, when we notice ourselves being caught up, we can say, this is sinking, and it's like popping a bubble and letting that bubble maybe float by and not getting caught up into the story. Or if we have a difficult emotion, we can name it, this is sadness. And sometimes by just naming it, it's like the bubble is sort of popping and we are no longer soaking into that. It may not always happen, but that might be an image that is helpful. You can try. Someone else says, thank you, I very much enjoy it. And does it become easier to stay focused the more you practice mindfulness meditation? Well, I will talk from my experience, but yes, the more I've practiced, the more I'm able to stay focused and also to notice personally greater state of ease in my life. And when I feel moments that are more difficult or stressful, I'm able to catch myself much sooner than before, and instead of going into maybe a more reaction mode, I can catch those conditioning and habits and take a moment to breathe, a space, and act from more of a place of responsivity. So I actually encourage you all to try meditation. Maybe it's been said through the research from as little as 8 weeks, 20 to 40 minutes of meditation per day. This can change not only our brain, but also how we relate to life. So maybe try it for a little while and see what you notice. And then someone say, how has mindfulness affected my life? Mindfulness has affected my life that I've decided to found the Institute for Integrative Mindfulness and Movement, and to choose a life in mindfulness. When I encountered mindfulness in my life, I had a moment of awakening and decided that yes, I wanted to live more fully present in my life, so I could better know that I am here and I'm not waking up when I'm 80 years old and I realize that I missed half my life, but also to be able to offer the greater resources that I have to anyone in my life. And then thank you for the beautiful and important reminder to remain present, to the mental and emotional benefits, and thank you for sharing the experience. Yes, thank you very much, everyone, for all of your sharing, your comments, your discussion. I am very grateful, and I hope that this experience was helpful to you. So on that note, I would just like to take a moment to invite you to come back and revisit this evening. This is recorded. This is going to be available online. And also I would like to invite you to come back to other events that I will be offering. So this is a time to share with you my credit slide. So I work with an organization just like the Museum of Science, but also I serve university, hospital, workplaces. So please feel free to invite me in your organization. I'll be so happy to bring you mindfulness in one way or another. If you go visit my website, I offer weekly mind-body classes in mindfulness, also in Pilates and in yoga. And I will offer 2 special events for the spring. There are 2 workshops. I do not offer workshops very often, and they are limited in spots, so I invite you to register and save your spot before they're all gone. The first event will be on March 24th, and I entitled it The Joy of Spring. It's about cultivating greater positive states within our life, tapping into joy, and this is a mind and body workshop, so not only just mindfulness but also some movement. And on April 1st, on April Fools, I will be conducting a workshop on relational mindfulness and communication workshop. This is perhaps the class that we all wish we had at school and we never did. Because communication is every day in our life through all sorts of means, and I think practicing mindfulness through communication can really change the way we relate to one another. So on that note, I invite you to visit my website at any time. It's integrativemindfulnessmovement.com, and feel free to email me at info@IMM for Integrative Mindfulness and Movement, IMMinstitute.com. And please take a moment maybe to grab all of your phone. Take a mindful breath for a mindful, beautiful picture so you can remember all the information on the screen. You can visit my website if you would like to provide any caring support for the work I care for, I would be very grateful. Also, please follow and like me on the social media. Flood my social media with your like and heart. You can follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn, and of course Twitter. So on that note, as we are closing the night, I could not thank you enough for your presence, for showing up at the Museum of Science for a night of mindfulness. I am so grateful that you chose to spend this time together. And I would like to offer my special thanks and acknowledgement to my family and my friends that I hold very dearly in my heart, to my mentors and teachers. In particular, I would like to dedicate that evening to Niels, to Tom, to Diana Winston, to Marvin, and to the many other inspiring teachers I've had. I would like also to shower with a big round of applause the Museum of Science team. That is the wonderful James, the lovely Bethany, and the very creative Jason and Mark that have done so much work behind the scene. I could not thank them enough to allowing this event to happen today. Thank you so, so much. And then lastly, if you are interested in learning more about the science of mindfulness, here are the names of all the wonderful persons that have inspired me for this event tonight. Thank you for all your work. Thank you for enriching my cognitive knowledge on the science around mindfulness. So I would like now to encourage you next time that you are interacting with water to offer your full presence to water. Maybe take your time when you are sensing, touching, playing with water. And I wish you all a beautiful life, and may you all live in health and awareness. Thank you so much for this evening, tonight. And on that note, I would like to pass it on to James, who I think has found himself back into the spring with a beautiful waterfall. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Maïté. What an incredible evening. I feel very centered. I know our audience does as well. I very much needed this during these hectic times. We can't wait to continue this partnership and collaboration with you. So everyone out there, stay tuned for more Maïté and more mindfulness meditation. In the meantime, I need to thank once again our friends from the Lowell Institute for making tonight possible. And I need to thank all of you out there for joining us and spending your Thursday night with us. We hope you will continue to do so all season long. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and have a wonderful night.